Hey everybody, I hope you're still there. I think we finally got our settings right. I just recorded this whole thing only to realize that no one was there because the settings were still wrong. Somehow it was set to only I can see it and not everyone else. So anyway, welcome to Break Time with Pastor V. We are a little late, about 7 minutes as I look up at the clock. Thank you for being here. Hopefully if you've missed it, you've come back and see the run of it again. We'll still post it. So anyway, welcome to Break Time with Pastor V. As you join, say hello. Let us know where you're from, even if you're listening to this in a sort of a delayed setting. But God has been good, and thank you for being there Sunday as well. We had a huge mix-up, but it is all well now. I'm sure of it, as I just saw the settings into public rather than just me seeing this. Today I want to talk about we call sound the alarm, and because I've kind of run out of time already, I'm just going to give a quick synopsis of it. After Solomon had a son. Solomon went off in his wisdom. He was a wise fool, as my great grandmother would call him, meaning that in the sense that he was the wisest man, the richest man, but he went and served other gods. And part of God's promise to David was that his kingdom would continue as long as they served God. Well, God was gracious. He took the kingdom away from Solomon after his death through his son, and so the kingdom split. So that's where we got our split from Israel, a northern and a southern kingdom. And the southern kingdom was Israel, the northern kingdom was Judah. Anyway, Judah and Israel end up in a war under Solomon's grandson leading Judah, and Jeroboam leading Israel. And so I titled this Sound the Horn, and I noticed some things that happened in this thing. Israel was much larger than the kingdom of Judah, and unfortunately they're at war with each other. But Abijah, who's the king of Judah, tells Jeroboam, the king of Israel, listen, you don't want to do this. Listen, we serve God. We are in God's plan. Have you not realized that God has promised the kingdom, the lineage to David? We're worshiping him. We have our priest in order. We are serving God the right way, the way that God has told us to. Whereas you, because Jeroboam had cheapened the priesthood, he walked away from God. He was selling the priesthood to anyone who wanted to be a priest, pretty much so. And so the first thing in this battle is they come against each other. Judah only has about 400,000 men. Israel, which is Jeroboam, has 800,000 men. So they're there getting ready to battle, and while the smaller kingdom of Abijah or the north is talking, the southern kingdom surrounds them. So they send men to go around behind them, and there are men in front of them, and so they're stuck in the middle, and they get ready to attack. But what they realize is that I want you to realize that even when you're surrounded by the enemy and things are not going well, that God's got you. The first thing you have to realize is that if you're engaged in battle, that you are engaged, that you are in God's plan, that God's got you. So Abijah recognized that God's got us, that we are following his will. We've committed to that and doing this thing God's way. And so as a result of that, when they were surrounded, guess what? They had to be in the battle, but God worked a miracle for them, and they ended up, although they were the smaller kingdom, they won. In fact, the word of God says in verse 4, that Judah turned and saw that they were being attacked at the both front and the rear. They cried out to the Lord, and guess what? The priest, the leadership of the church, blew their trumpets. They sound the alarm, and the men of Judah engaged in battle at the sound of the battle cry. And God routed Jeroboam and all Israel before Abijah and Judah. God worked on their behalf. The church, the leaders, sound the alarm. We have to sound the alarm that we are engaged in battle. We are standing for God. And it doesn't matter that there are fewer of us than there is of the world, because God's got that. Secondly, they had to engage in the battle. Sometimes I know we talk about wait on the Lord, but there are oftentimes we have to engage. You have to fight the battle. You cannot quit and see the hand of God work. You have to do the thing God's way. Be engaged, stay engaged. Don't be discouraged. I know this thing is going backwards with us with COVID, but listen, stay in the race, stay in the battle, keep fighting. The church has got to yield out the cry. We've got to blow the horn. We've got to tell the world that God is real, that Jesus saves, that he delivers, and that he heals. And we will see that as we stay in God's plan. And as you stay in God's plan in your own personal battles, don't worry about it being too big, because there is no battle that's bigger than your God. And when you're surrounded all around, just as Judah was surrounded everywhere they looked, the enemy was there. But when the call of God came, they fought with all they had, and God delivered Israel into their hands. So verse 18 says, the Israelites were subdued on that occasion, and the people of Judah were victorious. Why? Because they relied on the Lord, Jehovah, the God of their ancestors. You know what? So old school works, guys. Don't throw it away. Old school works. Stay in the race. Keep trusting God, and we will just serve him together and watch him with deliverance. Again, thank you for Break Time with Pastor V. I know that you didn't get to see this live, but go back and see it. I'll send you out something. Bless you.